haunted house would be complete without a cemetery full of headstones. And you can get these headstones in just about any party store or Halloween department, as my trusty assistant Teresa will tell you. But
they're pretty expensive.
They are really expensive. I mean, for a piece of styrofoam, it's like maybe $7, probably $15 or $20 for a tombstone. And they're kind of not so great looking. I mean, they're flat
and they're not personalized at all.
They're not personalized, that's for sure. So you can make your very own tombstones, and pretty much I can guarantee that they're going to look better than the ones that you can buy. Now, earlier today we went to our local home center. You can go to your lumberyard, home center, anything like that, and you want to ask before you go, make sure that they have styrofoam insulation. The great thing about this is it's extremely inexpensive. For a 4x8 sheet of styrofoam, you could probably pay maybe as much as $15, $16 at the most. So you can make a lot of headstones from a 4-foot by 8-foot sheet of styrofoam. You can also get it in smaller pieces. This is about 2 feet by 4 feet. So this is a lot easier.
That's only like $3 or $4.
Right, this is like $3.60, and you can fit this into the car quite easily. However, don't be afraid if you're going to get a really huge sheet, because this stuff breaks apart and cuts apart really easily. Just bring a little cutting appliance with you to the home center. And probably one of the more important things to think about before you get started is where to get started. You want to probably do this on the driveway, on the patio, in the basement, somewhere where you can clean up pretty easily, because as soon as you start cutting this stuff, it starts fragmenting and you get little styrofoam balls everywhere. If you want to do it on the yard, you might want to put down a drop cloth, some plastic sheeting.
Okay, great. You don't need all that much to work with this stuff. The very most important thing you need is some utility knives, especially the retractable utility knives are the best thing to use, because it cuts really well when they're really sharp. And as soon as they get dull, you can either break them off or just chuck them and put a new blade in there. And these knives are really, really inexpensive and easy to find just about anywhere. And then what you're going to need is a marker so that you can draw out your shapes. And if you want to do any kind of a circular, like the rounded top, you can use a string and your marker, and we'll show you how to mark out a really nice circular shape on the top just using those two items. And then, of course, my favorite, the wire hanger, and of course, pair of pliers and or some wire cutters. And like I've said before, you don't need to have wire cutters because most pliers will actually cut your wire. And I also have my trusty hot glue gun and the bowl of ice water in case you get a little hot glue on you. You dip your hand in there and you don't get burn marks.
Before we get started, you'll note that all of this styrofoam actually has plastic coating on either side. Usually the manufacturer is printed on one side, and then there's a solid color of plastic on the other. Leave this on while you do all of your drawing and cutting, because it'll help the styrofoam stay together and it'll be a lot easier to mark on, and then when you're all finished you can peel it right off.
Okay, I'm going to show you real quickly how to do a nice rounded top for your tombstone. We're going to make a decent sized tombstone. In fact, we're going to use the size of the, pretty much the size of this, except we're going to take off the top and make it nice and round. And the easiest way to do that is to tie a knot in a piece of string. And you're going to tie that and loop it right around your marker. And you can do about half the width. Kind of easy to find. Go right in about the middle. And you're just going to simply... Okay, got my retractable knife here. I'm going to pull it out so it's, a little bit thicker, a little bit wider than the foam is thick. And be sure you're cutting on something that you don't care whether you get marks on it. A piece of cardboard underneath works really well. The cement will do just fine, but it'll dull your blade a little bit. And you want to just, especially for a curve like this, you want to try and use the smaller blades because they'll go around a curve easier. And you just carefully, it cuts really good when the blade's sharp. So there you go, there's your basic tombstone shape.
When you're done cutting your tombstone, you can go ahead and feel free to peel off that plastic coating. Now you notice there's plastic coating on both sides. Of course, your tombstone is really only going to be seen from one side, so you only have to peel off one side. Now we could just stop right here and paint this one, but I guess we're going to go ahead and show you how to maybe make it a little bit extra fancy.
Okay. One of the things that you can do real simply is to put some lettering on it, like rest in peace is sort of a typical thing to do. And if you give yourself a general idea of where you want the letters to be, with your same old retractable knife, it's really simple to go in there and, like, don't do it so that it's the thickness of the foam itself, but you go in there with it slightly shorter, and you go in at an angle. You cut down this way, and you cut down the other angle this way.
Just about no matter what you do to it, it kind of looks like stone, and whenever you make little jagged lines and edges in it, it looks like weathered stone.
It's like you're scooping out a little triangle of the foam. And this stuff can also be sanded and everything if you want to sort of smooth out the edges, but we like it rough. See where it's dragging a lot? Now my blade's getting a little duller, which I don't mind because I like it to be nice and rough. But you can always snap that part of your blade off. Mm-hmm. You could hand me the
pliers.
Oh, I've got pliers right here. You want to be careful and do it with the pliers. And snap the blade right off.
Put it somewhere safe.
And then you keep going.
All right, so you want to dress this one up a little bit with a couple extra bricks, you think?
Yeah. You can take some of the stuff that's like about a ½ inch, or you know, that you can find some in different dimensions. And where's our trusty straight edge?
Right here.
You can use a yardstick. You can use just about anything. So I'm just going to make these bricks all about this size.
The great thing about this is it's all really forgiving, and you don't really even have to do any extensive planning ahead of time. It's just pretty much play as you go. Really easy to do.
And this stuff especially cuts real easy. Okay.
So go ahead and peel off one side of the plastic and leave the other side on there, because that way it'll keep everything all nice and glued together.
Right now, what I'm going to do, just for fun, is I'm going to put just a sort of a skull right in the middle of there, and I'm just going to freehand it, and they can be sort of fun and lumpy and lopsided. Anything will work. Get some big eyes, and then I'll do like a separate jaw piece. And you can always cut some of the teeth into it, but I'm not going to do too many because that's an awful lot to cut out. And a nose. Then you cut out your shape. And there we have a bunch of cool details. And you can make him laugh, or you can put his face in any position. Now, actually how we're gonna attach these pieces onto this one piece of styrofoam is we're gonna use some spray adhesive. Now you can use hot glue, but you have to use a really low temperature hot glue gun, and you gotta hold it up away from the foam, otherwise it'll melt it and sort of dig into it and it won't adhere.
So it's a lot easier, I think, to use.
Yeah.
It's either called spray mount or spray glue, or.
And you don't want to use really heavy duty stuff because that'll eat into your styrofoam as well. So what you're going to want to do is probably put down a piece of plastic, because otherwise you're going to get sticky stuff
Yeah,
everywhere.
let's just use this other piece of. We're going to sacrifice this and do it over the top of that.
Oh, here, let's take a big piece.
There you go.
Okay. So you don't want to get spray glue everywhere else. And then what you want to do is spray it lightly on both sides of where you're going to be putting down. So you're going to, you don't have to get the whole surface. Are those in place?
Nope.
Oh. Okay, there you go. And down a little bit. Back of this. Back of it.
Try not to get this on your fingers because it really doesn't like to come off very easily.
Okay, we'll give him a nice jaunty angle there, like he's laughing.
Yeah.
Okay, now we got a little empty spot up there. I'm thinking a crack.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A nice big crack.
You can have the crack go all the way down into here. And then all we have to do is paint it, and it's
Stick
done.
our hanger in to
Yeah.
put it in the ground.
Before we go ahead and paint this, because otherwise we'd have to wait till it dries, we're going to go ahead and put some wire in through the bottom of this. Now the wire will work if you don't have any wind or anything, but if you've got a really heavy tombstone or you've got some wind and stuff, you can always do what we did last year and screw on a piece of wood or something like that you can poke into the ground, because that'll hold the styrofoam up really well. But for this will be great with a couple pieces of wire. So we're going to take our hanger and cut off the top part, and I'm just going to go ahead and cut it in half and straighten it out as much as possible. And you want to go ahead and stick it at the bottom there. And you can play around with whatever works for you. If you want to use a long piece of wire, or if you want to use like 3 or 4 of them. And then you can always angle it a little bit so your tombstone's like hanging back or leaning forward. And now we're ready to paint it.
We're going to put the finishing touches on our headstone, and that means we're going to paint this baby. But first, of course, you want to make sure you're outside in a well-ventilated area, and we've laid down some plastic. And what's great about this drop cloth, which you can get at most any home center or paint store, is that it is multi-purpose. We are going to use it in all of our dummies to stuff our dummies with, and we're going to use it in some other effects later on, so it has a lot of purposes. All you need is a can of flat black spray paint. Remember to get flat black, it's going to look the best. You don't want any shiny tombstones out in your cemetery. You want some really dingy, old weathered tombstones. Remember to shake the can, hold it about a foot above the styrofoam, and start spraying and sweeping motions. Now the thing about spray paint, as you'll notice, is it actually eats into the styrofoam a little bit, which is fine because it's going to make it look a little bit more like weathered stone. You can see how it's eating away and making it look even a little bit more rocky. You don't want to make it solid black. You want to just move the spray can over in sweeping motions and just kind of dirty it up. Make it look gray and weathered in certain areas. If you hold the spray can from a certain direction, you'll actually get some shadowing and highlighting. Notice how I'm holding the spray can at an angle off to the side, not straight overhead. You don't want to make splotchy black marks. You just want to cast some really nice weathered patterns. You may want to go a little bit heavier around the edges because, of course, that's where the wind and rain would be hitting the tombstone if it had been out here for hundreds of years. Remember only to spray paint lightly. You don't want to cover it in flat black. You just want it to look like it's been weathered. And look how nicely the paint is actually eating into the styrofoam. It's actually a chemical reaction between the contents of the paint and the styrofoam. So that's another reason why you definitely want to do this outside. The results are awesome. It actually makes it look like it's stone.
All right, there we have it. There is our tombstone.
Our masterpiece, where it took the sculptors years to create these. It took us probably less than 20 minutes. And what's really awesome is it cost maybe around $7. It's an awesome addition to anybody's haunted cemetery.